Marhaba, shalom and welcome to the exciting podcast Israel and Palestine Unpacked that is dedicated to exploring the complexities of the ongoing political situation between Palestinians and Israelis. Throughout this podcast, we will explore unresolved issues, the human cost and the diverse experiences and perspectives of those directly affected. These discussions demand sensitivity as the emotional weight of the topic cannot be overlooked. So far, we have focused primarily on the personal stories of individuals, their experiences, struggles and views, which provide valuable insights into how lived experiences shape perceptions. Moving forward, in the near future, I aim to engage with academics, historians, journalists and writers who have examined different dimensions of this complex political landscape. Additionally, we will highlight the significant contributions of peace organizations, both locally and globally, whose work fosters understanding and offers paths towards reconciliation. This podcast approaches the subject from an academic perspective, striving to unpack and better understand the issues at hand. I am not a journalist by trade, and my interviewing skills are continually developing. With each conversation, I aim to grow through self-awareness and constructive feedback. While I may occasionally miss opportunities to further explore claims or subjects, I view these moments as steps in a learning journey that I hope will make each episode more insightful. Finally, it is important to emphasize that all views expressed are those of the interviewees alone and do not necessarily reflect the views of this podcast. Today we have the opportunity to speak with Daliah, a Palestinian, and Kemi, an Israeli. Both are mothers of 2 children, raising their families during these turbulent times. While each woman's experience of the ongoing war has been profoundly different, they both speak of the love, care and deep fears they hold for their children's futures. As hopes grow that the upcoming ceasefire will deliver a sense of calm for the people of Gaza, Israel and the West Bank, this episode highlights the resilience needed in the face of hardship. Through their stories, we explore the vital role of a mother's strength in providing stability and hope, even in the most difficult circumstances. The resilience shared by Daliah and Kemi is both inspiring and sobering, revealing not only the immense challenges they face, but also the power of love to endure through uncertainty. I hope you find this episode of Israel and Palestine Unpacked both informative and deeply moving. If you would like to receive more content like this, you are welcome to subscribe and join us as we journey together, seeking insightful perspectives and knowledge on this complex and human conflict. In our first interview, we speak to Daliah, a 41-year-old mother from Khan Younis in the Gaza Strip. She describes herself as having 2 wonderful sons who are her greatest joy. After enduring 4 harrowing months of violence, killing and starvation in the Gaza Strip, she managed to leave her homeland. At present, she is residing in Cairo, seeking safety and stability for her family. Her journey has been filled with immense challenges, yet she remains a proud Gazan, determined to build a brighter future for her children. In our interview, we discuss her hopes, fears and disappointments after Israel's disengagement from Gaza in 2005, her journey out of the coastal territory during this war and her present experience in Cairo with her family. But first, we explore her experiences growing up into adulthood under Israel, the Palestinian Authority and Hamas.
Well, back in the day when Fatah or the Palestinian Authority was on charge, things were a little bit chaotic. It was more open, much less problem as a holistic problems of the Gazan population, more of a very internal few problems that the people would just face, lack of security, a lot of corruption in the infrastructure. But this is something for my age that at the time I really did not sense it, and I didn't feel it. I was just used to go to school. I knew that Fatah was in charge. It did not really touch me personally, but in general, we could sense that there isn't the regulations we wanted to have. It was not really actually as dangerous, but still is not as much of a sense of security that was there. But I did not experience the threat of the Israeli existence in the Gaza Strip until I had to go to university. I had to go from my city, Khan Younis, to Gaza. I majored in French and my university was in Gaza City. I had to go through the checkpoint. This was my first real experience with the existence of the Israeli forces inside of the strip. We had to go much like at 5 a.m. to go for 30 minutes to car drive. Sometimes it would take till dawn. The other day we stayed multiple times on those checkpoints a night over if something happened. It was a misery, literally, adding to other difficulties we had. This is the only direct connection or experience I had with the Israelis in Gaza Strip. Then I had to also deal with them when I had to leave Gaza into Egypt before 2005. I was heading in a scholarship to France, and I faced how inhumanized conditions of people who wanted to travel. I had to literally sit under 3 people in a very jammed bus to be able to leave Gaza. But it happened, and then the Israeli have lifted Gaza by 2005. Then all what we knew is just the aerial relationship that was by the planes. I never had any other connection with them unless there was something, a rocket dropping over, or I would hear the sounds of bombings. There is really no interaction. It's very different than how it is in West Bank. Gaza, since 2005, faced a lot of escalations and wars and minor wars and greater wars, but this is the whole that could reduce. Anyone who lived after 2005 would only know the only interaction with Israel was by the bombings. Now let's move on to the larger, how Hamas was. I lived. Actually, when they came into power, it was a huge disappointment for me personally. I did not believe what they wanted to promote. Too bad I was proven right. Things have went down the hill ever since they took over, especially when they took over they kicked Fatah, all that, I would say a minor civil war that happened, and then so they took over, they kicked all the Palestinian Authority out. Things really, with the blockade, it was enforced on Gaza because of that action they did. It went very bad. So what is it for me as a woman living in Gaza? What would that affect me? The blockade would mean, actually, I graduated from my studies. There was no working chances for me whatsoever. The employment rate just rose every year. It reached to very higher scales. I had the means to have a really proper life. Still, the misery around me was not something you would condone or just take it easy, because you can have a source of living. Other people around you are extremely miserable. The traveling issues was very hard. If you want to travel to pursue any reason, if it's for health or education or just for just tourism, it's something, this is like a dream you should not even dream of unless you need to or you have to. And even though if I afforded traveling, I wouldn't be able to think about it, because it means I have to go through hell. I have to put my name on those records and wait for a long time to be accepted to leave. And it was a long procedure that is not worthwhile, the whole thing. Hamas also, they've enforced a huge amount of taxes in the recent years because of all this financial troubles that they faced. So in general, they literally took us back in time when it comes to how to be comfortable. This is something we did not witness during the PA days. The blockade affected every soul in Gaza. I can't deny This is in general. I would give you just a very general view of how it felt for me through the three different, I don't know, like powers.
Okay. So it's interesting, we are talking at the present time, and it's only a few days now that Bashar al-Assad has been ousted from power in Syria. And following on social media, various media, well, for myself across the West, I have picked up like a sense of euphoria from Syrian people, and I can understand that. They're on the cusp of change. And so picking up from your experience, there has been at points in your life a sense of hope and a sense of fear. So you have the Israeli disengagement in 2005 under the premiership of Ariel Sharon, where the settlements were dismantled and Israel's civilian and military population on the ground were removed from the Gaza Strip. In what sense, for Gazans generally, were those hopes crushed?
Well, we felt exactly like literally liberated when the Israeli army left. Why? As I told you, that it was a struggle to go from city to city, just within the very small area of Gaza Strip. After Israel left, a lot of changes happened that would give us a prospect of a good life. We've finally had fair elections in a long ago, even though the results were not as satisfying. Then we thought maybe in 4 years we'll change what happened and the election would have another chance. We didn't get that chance, too bad. But the Gazans were literally taken into a lot of turmoil of like promises that none were met. We were promised to have at least a government that works for the benefit of the Gazan, but it did not happen. Hamas had their own agenda that has another the agendas. I don't want to talk about that. That is just a different thing that does not interest me as a Gazan. But yeah, they did not came in power to really. They said they came to change the status quo and to make it better. Things just went worse. They were literally crushed. The dreams, the hopes for a better future, they were crushed. But then not only by Hamas, then the wars, the consecutive wars, every war that happened ever since 2008, 2009, this is the first major war that happened. What happened is you realize you could just gone like that. This is the first time for me to witness that. I did not actually witness the intifada that broke in Gaza Strip. I was not there at when it happened. But I know what like the whole turmoil of a war could make your life change. You basically don't start, you change the way of your thinking. You don't build far away plans. You don't have the luxury to plan your future. You just go from day to day because you don't know what happens. Next day a war broke, you'd lose everything you have, and here you go. This is how it goes. And this is what actually just happened for me. I'm not an active part of politically or any otherwise. So the last wars did not affect me, just otherwise endangering my life. But the last war is something different on all scales. I was from the first day. I also have nothing to do with the 7th of October, but I immediately felt the danger that the retaliation gonna touch every soul in Gaza. And this is what happened. It did to me directly. People I would tell you, like since 2006, 2007, when Hamas took over, had from pump to a pump to a pump. So people would really be, I would say, their spirits were really literally crushed. That also would just be translated on the numbers of people trying to leave Gaza. Just look at the numbers. Ever since 2000, after the first war, 2008, 2009, people started leaving. I had a lot of family members who left in 2009 and 2014 after all those major wars. And now it's my turn. I had to leave forced, but now I don't think of returning back. Not because I don't want to, because there is no hope if things gonna change anytime soon. Yeah. Gaza is literally gonna be under the mercy of whatever plans has the Israeli government.
On that note, particularly like the conflict between Palestinians and Israelis has been going on for decades and decades and decades. That struggle between both sides as such has taken a different turn, let's say, since October the 7th, with the Hamas attack on the various villages just on the other side of the Gaza-Israel frontier. And then, of course, the subsequent Israeli response. For you personally, Daliah, you, from what I understand, you and your family have been displaced twice in the last 18 months or so. Can you talk about this experience if you feel comfortable with it and how it's impacted your life and that of your family?
Mm. Well, yes, indeed. When 7th of October happened, it was just like any other Saturday. We had no plans. Anyway, when it happened, we just did not have any imaginary any. We would never imagine it would happen. When it happened on the 10th of October, just like that, and I was still trying to grasp the immense events that happened on 7th of October. And in the morning of 10th of October, we just received a call. Actually, our neighbors received the call that we should evacuate the whole area. We're gonna bomb it. I had to evacuate at the 10th of October, just 3 days after the war started, or the escalation started. And we had to go to another area in Khan Younis. The house was basically abandoned house. It was a large, big house with the water. Still, then all the infrastructure in Gaza Strip stopped, so everything became like a sufferance, literally. You had to come up with the ways to find water, clean water, bread, and all of that. All of that, leaving your house, leaving your comfort zone, and trying to just make it up, make it on your own. Also, I have to be like, I happen to be married to a doctor who would basically be on emergency call all 24/7. So I had to do all that by myself, me and my two sons. It was hard to put myself through all of this. And then when we just barely get the grasp of how to do it, he had to be also displaced again. Then when they asked us to leave the area I was at to Rafah city, there we found us jammed, like 42 people jammed in one apartment. This was inhumane. Also, with the lack of everything, like the food was still started to getting to be scarce. There is no clean water. There's 2 days we had to go through without any fresh water, and you don't know how much this is carries on with you. For till this day, my son still feels like we might run out of fresh water, and we're not. We're not here. We have water, accessible water all the time. It's something that we witnessed for the first time, we lived for the first time. You don't know how to deal with it. After some time now, because I was one of the few lucky people to be able to leave. The third time I left Rafah to Egypt. But that's I wish more people had left before the border was closed, but it isn't. I now can go look back and just think about what we witnessed. Those 4 months I lived, it will always be with me. You cannot erase that. It's imprinted in your, I don't know how to say it, like something you've witnessed for the first time in your life, but you will never be able to erase. I don't know what is the aftermath I have to deal for how many years. I'm trying to do my best, but the effects on myself, on my sons, also on my husband, it was immense. We literally felt dehumanized. In those few months, I did not feel like a human being. I felt like something, not even someone, something that have no power, have no value in the world, and no one would care even if I go to, I don't know, if I die or live. I was not accounted amongst the people that matter in the world.
You're now living in Cairo. You're separated physically from the war. How has life been for you in Cairo? How have you adapted to your new surroundings? What about your sons, for example?
Mhm. Well, for me, I'm in Cairo now for the last, since February. The first few months were really difficult. Just escaping genocide and starvation. You have to go back to, I don't know, just to rethink what you have been going through. But now I'm starting to settle down. My older son managed to finish his high school studying and he went to medical school. He managed to do that. That was really he made me really happy that he could manage to pull through and get to what he wanted to do. But then, on the other hand, the Egyptian authorities are not allowing us to really settle. We're trying to settle down, but this is not an option when you don't have a source of livelihood. Also, children are not allowed to go to schools, public or private. So my youngest son has not been attending any formal school for the last year and over a year and like a couple of months, because he's a refugee from Gaza and he's not granted even the refugee status. He's homeschooled online, and if I want to work, I will not be able to do any kind of official procedures without having a permit, and I don't have a permit. So I'm literally here in a league of refugee, and the Egyptian authorities would expect me to leave the first day Gaza war stops and the border is reopened. But to return to work, since my house is already destroyed, I don't know what to return to. I'll have to wait and see. So things are not in my hand to decide or to say, but I'm trying to do my best. We're trying to move on with our life. I'm not going to tell you that we gave up. No, I'm actually doing the best I could. I work online now because this is the only option possible, work online. And we're trying to move on with our lives. But this is how it is in Cairo. This is the realistic view.
Finally, how do you remain resilient in the face of war and displacement? What are your hopes for the future, Daliah?
It's just my sons who pull me through. Because I'm a mother, I'm responsible for 2 lives. I had to pull myself through. I wanted to give up in Gaza before I left to Cairo. I wanted to I was praying for us to be gone. I wanted to do that because it was too much to take. But then just looking at the faces of my sons, I remind myself I have something to look up for, which is having better lives for my sons. I just want my sons to have a safe, secure life. And this is what pulls me through. This is what makes me go on and wake up in the morning and do the things I have to do. They deserve a life that they decide what to do and how to do it. So they deserve to have their own lives. I want to help them do that. This is what makes me actually going. This is my motive in life, to give the life I couldn't get in Gaza to my children. My 2 boys are marvelous boys. They deserve all the best in the world. They're not deserve to be their lives to be taken away from them. And this is what they witnessed when they in the last the months when they said they literally told, where is our life? Where is our house? Where is our street? Where is our city? Where is everything? I told them, we'll have it. It's not, of course, it was destroyed. We can have another place. We can rebuild it if we can. You can have it whatever you want. It's all about in your hands. Don't give up hope. You can have whatever you want. I don't want them to lose that. I want them to keep hopeful that there is always another way. That was taken up from us during the war. I'm sure more to the 2 million people in Gaza don't feel that way. My family who still lives there, they feel the hopelessness. I don't want to take that from my kids. That's why I want the hope to be alive for them. They deserve it. This is the least that they could, this is their basic rights. To have a hope. I'm trying to give them that. This is what actually keep me moving. This is what keep me going.
You're listening to Israel and Palestine Unpacked with me, your host, Porrick. If you have any comments, questions or feedback, please feel free to contact me at israelpalestineunpacked@gmail.com, or alternatively, you can connect via our Facebook page or X account. All contact information can be found below in the description. In our second interview, we sit down with Kemi, born in London to Israeli and South African parents, who grew up in a secular household. Her upbringing, rooted in a multicultural background, nurtured a deep appreciation for diverse cultures and traditions. In 2010, after completing a bachelor's degree in psychology, Kemi made the pivotal decision to move to Israel, driven by a desire to reconnect with her roots and start a new chapter in her life. She spent 5 years serving in the IDF, an experience that deepened her understanding of Israeli culture, while exposing her to the complexities and challenges of Israeli society. Early in her journey, Kemi met her husband, and today they raised 2 children in central Israel. The balancing act of motherhood amidst ongoing conflicts has significantly shaped her perspectives on society and politics, offering a unique lens on resilience and identity in Israel. In this interview, Kemi shares her experiences raising children in Israel, the challenges she faces, and her reasons for choosing to stay. But first, we explore how her identity has been shaped by her connections to both Britain and Israel, and the factors behind her decision to permanently settle in the country.
Basically, I come from Israeli parents, mostly my dad. He was born and bred in Haifa. So I've been going back and forth in Israel my entire life. Saying that, I come from a very secular background. Neither of my parents ever celebrated Jewish holidays. If we did, we would go to friends of family, do things. We were not observant in any way. So I grew up actually with non-Jewish people. Most of my friends were non-Jewish. I went to Jewish schools, but my social life was very not Jewish. And so my connection to Israel was always a familial connection, going to see family. My dad would speak Hebrew to me at home, but that was more, because Hebrew is his first language, rather than we are Zionist and believe in Israel as the Jewish homeland. It was just a homeland where my dad grew up in, and my mom lived most of her life as well. And so that was my experience when I moved to Israel. It was a familial decision. It was a decision because I knew Israel as a place. I felt comfortable there. I liked Israeli culture more than I did necessarily Jewish culture, if that makes sense. It's a very, very different culture to what you would experience maybe in the diaspora. So it just felt like home. And Israel was always a second home. And that's what brought me. I brought my English personality and my growing up in a secular world. I brought it to Israel with me. I never let it go. I never left it behind. But I came to feel at home in Israel because it was a country that just felt comfortable for me.
As a mother raising children in a conflict zone, how have you navigated the psychological challenges to help you and your children to build emotional resilience and to find support within your community?
So I served in the IDF for 5 years. I did that because I felt it was the only way to really be in touch and get to know and be a experience Israeli culture in all its reality. During my time in the IDF, I was a part of 2 of the big operations in 2012 and 2014. 2014 being a mini war that we had. I was an officer then, and that gave me the resilience to navigate what life is like over here. It hardens you up. It makes you really understand, really feel like you're a part, even when things get tough over here, because that is just a part of life in this volatile part of the world. So that really helped me to pass that on to my boy. My little one is too little to understand anything, so that's fine. But my 4-year-old, he needed me to be strong and to navigate this with him. And so we would play games, going to the shelter, and I would make him laugh, and he at points he would even say, "My daddy is who makes the sirens because he's strong." We turned it into a game so he wouldn't worry about it. I know that my friends have maybe been more open with their children about what's going on, and they're more aware of the war. I don't feel like my son is. And I'm trying to keep it that way because honestly, I value his innocence. I'd like him to feel like he is secure in his home, wherever that is, and not feel like he needs to be explained at the age of 4 what war is, if I can help it.
Focusing more on yourself again. You obviously you have grown up in Britain, you have many British values, but you're someone who now has immigrated and you now live in Israel and you're an Israeli citizen. You're living during a time of conflict. What factors influence your decision to remain in Israel despite these challenges? And how do you weigh these against the difficulties of life elsewhere when considering your
That's a
children's
really
future?
good question. It has not been easy. As a person who comes from a peaceful land, a country that is not at war, that does not know war, living here with children has been it's a challenge. It's a mental and emotional challenge. The main reason I'm still here is because of my husband and I. My husband is here and he is fully Israeli. He fully believes in this is the only country he knows, and he's fully invested in Israel. And I'm here with him. I do not want to break up my family just because it is an easier choice to run back to a safe country, a safer country for my children. Also, there are a lot of things that are good here, putting the current situation aside, the political situation aside, which is absolutely another factor, which is very much making it challenging over here. Life does go on here, and the education is great, and we have a great community over here, and my children have friends, and we have friends, and we have a full life and we have everything we need. And it's not easy to just uproot that. I do think about my son, who is getting older. He's gaining an identity over here, learning his area and who he is over here, and he loves his life. I can feel that. I don't want to change that for him just because of situations that will pass. There is a future. Not to mention that my children are a future, and they might bring even a better future to Israel that we can't envisage right now. These are all options. So I think putting my itch aside to get up and run, which I'm not alone. Anyone here who has that ability. We're all itching for it, but we also know that there is a lot of reason to stay, and showing our children, giving them the way forward to make it a better place, I believe is worth at least trying to stay. Things aren't bad enough that I would say no. We need to give up. I don't think we're not there yet. There is still a way back to make this situation better.
It must be difficult to live in that situation where there's an increased sense of security in and around the town where you live, the village where you're living, and there's a complete absence of that, I suppose, back in life back in Britain.
I do want to say what you just said is very interesting, because I've always said here that yes, we live in a more dangerous land, but at least people are honest about it. Whilst there are things going on underground in England, and there is this ultimate feeling that people's head are in the sand about rumblings and the polarization, which is definitely happening. And when I think about moving back to England, there is that feeling of, am I really safe there? Because who is honest enough about the situation that they will protect the identity that I do come back with? At least over here, I'm surrounded by people who are very honest about the situation, even if I don't really agree with that honesty and think that there are much better ways of dealing with the situation, and ultimately fixing it. At least we are honest about what is going on here, and we can talk about it, and we can fight about it. I know where I stand here, which does bring some sense of security that you're right, England would not.
Thinking about England, in a sense, what senses of danger do you envisage for yourself, or that you feel, or that you see, if you know what I mean?
I mean, if we're going into specifics, then the images we're getting from the demonstrations in London have seemed pretty worrying. There are people who have been in England who I know have been scared to say anything about being Israeli. And despite the fact that I'm sure that there are a majority of people in the demonstrations who do believe that their cause is right, and that they're protesting for the right reasons for them, which is absolutely fine, of course, but there is always those people that take it to a level that makes it not feel safe for the other side. And I've seen it. My mom still lives in that area, so she feels it. And so it is, at this particular time, there is a feeling of not feeling safe, like being in that part of the country. Whilst I also know that as soon as this conflict ends, it's like I really do believe that it's all going to go away, and it'll be like nothing has happened, which is not necessarily also a good thing. I go back to this concept of head in the sand. No one really wants to do anything or really talk about the situation. It's just a momentary thing while it's newsworthy. And at least here, we are active because this is the only way to keep the country alive.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our incredible guests, Daliah and Kemi, for their openness and willingness to share their personal views, experiences, and rich stories. Their unique perspectives have given us valuable insights into the difficulties of raising children and the importance of developing resilience to protect and shield them. Looking ahead to our next episode, we'll be speaking with Paula, an Israeli living in Northern Ireland, and Hani, a Palestinian residing in Turkey. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Your engagement means the world. If you have thoughts, feedback or questions, we'd love to hear from you. You can reach out via email at Israel-Palestine-Unpacked@gmail.com or connect with us through our Facebook page. All the contact details are included in the description below. Finally, don't forget to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you won't miss future episodes. I hope you'll join me next time on Israel and Palestine Unpacked, where we continue to delve into the stories, voices and lived experiences that define this region.